We put a lot of emphasis in the world on friendships, and it's funny how they change and morph as life goes on from when we're young and we have a ton of friends at the park and we're all, "Hey, it's my BFF. We're going to go play and go hang out," to where do we go as we get older, and how is it that we go from having all kinds of people that we hang out with and friends to where, you can wake up one day and be 50 and realize that, you don't have too many people who call you on the weekends. And I was joking with my wife not too long ago that, when I'm home and I put my phone in the bedroom, I can leave it there the entire weekend and know that come Monday morning, if I go to look at it, odds are I didn't miss a single call or text, because everybody that I call or text or talk to is living right in my own home. And I find that this idea as I've gotten older that I've really done a poor job at maintaining close friendships. And I can't blame my friends because they're no good at it either, and I'm no good at it, and it's a two-way street, right? Like you can say, well, I don't understand why nobody calls me, but yet I don't call anybody either. And so, no one's going to, you can't expect others to do that which you don't do. And so it's just this interesting place, how we lose the ability to sort of harvest friendships or nurture friendships as we get older. I was talking about this subject with my pastor's wife at church, and she had made a mention that a lot of times that we get our priorities screwed up in terms of our circles, and that we have these sort of circles of people that are in our lives. And so like the inner circle is the people that are closest to you, your spouse, your children, the people who live in your home and that you see on a daily basis. And then the next circle out would be, extended family. So children that have grown up and moved away, or parents, brothers, sisters, cousins, things like that. That's kind of that next rung. Some of your best friend would probably be in that. And then the third ring out would be like your colleagues, the people you work with or go to school with, the people that you spend a lot of time, in your day with, but aren't necessarily that close to you personally. And then the fourth ring, or the outer ring, would be the people of your community, your barber, the girl at Starbucks that makes your coffee in the morning. And so you're kind of friendly with that, the person that checks you out at, the grocery store, those kind of people that you see with some regularity and you may have conversations with, but really they're insignificance to your life. And the point that she was trying to make is that it's too often, and it's very easy for us to spend a lot of times in that third ring, that our work colleagues or these people that we associate, in a professional setting, and we'll give a lot of time to that group of people. But ultimately, at the end of the day, that group of people is probably the most insignificant group of people that you can give your time to. With that said, we do that at the detriment or sacrifice of giving the time to that inner circle, or those people we should be giving the most amount of time to. I was talking with a buddy of mine just the other day, and we were talking about making life changes and moving across the country and all this sort of thing. And I mentioned this idea that one of the things I've learned over my life is that my children, they don't give a rat's behind about what the house we live in is. They don't care how many bedrooms. They don't care if it has a picket fence. They don't care what neighborhood it's located in. They don't care about any of that stuff whatsoever. They would live in a tent. They would live in fact, often my son wants to sleep in the living room on the couch, or make a tent and we'll sleep on the floors to kind of just make it like we're camping at home sort of thing. So kids, they don't care about any of that stuff. All they care about is that their parents are home, they're present, and that they love them. And yet we spend so much of our time and we give up so much of our time trying to amass the right amount of wealth that will provide this lifestyle that we think we need so we can keep up with the Joneses, or we can fit that sort of stereotype of what middle-class American life should look like, and at the detriment of the people in the inner circle. And ultimately, at the end of the day, that's why friendships, as you get older, become even harder to maintain, because while we're spending so much time in that third ring, which we should spend the least amount of time, or the second to least amount of time in, that and then with what time we have left, we have to kind of nurture whatever family relationships in that inner circle is, that where our BFF range is in our extended family, they tend to go by the wayside. And so at the end of all of this, it's very easy to get caught up in this conundrum to where, like, if, you go to, something comes up and you go, hey, I wish I had a friend to go talk to, that you don't, because you haven't spent the time nurturing those relationships. It was interesting. Back in January, we had gotten sick in our house with COVID, and I got a letter from my work basically saying, don't come anywhere near the building. And until your 10 days are up and all this sort of stuff. And it was a form letter that they were required to send out, and that kind of thing. But that was the only correspondence from that third circle that I got. Nobody called to check and see how we were feeling. Nobody called to check and see if we needed anything. Nobody called to check and see, if we were progressing okay. It was this weird sort of thing that the only correspondence I got during that time was from my work telling me, don't come anywhere near here until you're healthy. And I realized something at that point in time, that, we think we're so valuable and so irreplaceable in certain circles of our lives, particularly professionally. But at the end of the day, we're really not. In fact, I know if something were to happen to me tomorrow, I would be replaced in a very short period of time where I work. And in not too many years, maybe a year or two after that, I wouldn't even be a memory. Like, people wouldn't even be thinking of me at that place. But the people that would think most of and care most about it and be hurt most by it are the people that are in that inner circle, and they would be devastated. And that got me thinking of this thing that, I think we've kind of woke up to that as a society to some degree. I think that's one of the reasons why these corporations, when they're saying, hey, the pandemic's over, come back to work. And people are like, no, I don't want to. I don't want to go spend, 2 hours a day sitting in traffic to go work another 8 hours, then to sit 2 more hours in traffic coming home, and then, have these crumbs to give the people in my inner circle after having a year and a half or 2 years of being around the people who matter most to us. And so I think what we've kind of got ourselves into now is this world where people have woke up to the fact that this paradigm that we've been fed, or this what is it, this sacred cow, or I don't even know what to call it, like this sort of like, this is the way it is. It sucks. It's a horrible idea, right? That you're gonna go to school all these years so you can go spend most of your life at a corporation or a place of employment, to doing work, and then very little time at the home that you're working to build in the first place. And so I think people are waking up to that fact, and I think that's why a lot of corporations and folks are having a seriously hard time at getting people to come back to work and in the office, and doing all that, because people have figured out, I mean, at least some of us, that, the people that we care most about are not, in that third circle. They're not in our careers. They're actually in our homes. And because we've spent so much time with our priorities screwed up, we've actually, stopped nurturing those friendships that we once had and took for granted when we were younger. And now, as we move into these new chapters of our lives, that maybe it's a good time to go back and re-nurture and re-establish those close and intimate friendships that we had before. And so that was one of the things that over this 2022 New Year, as I was kind of thinking about, I don't really do New Year's resolutions, but if I was going to do a New Year's resolution, well, this would be what it would be, is I want to do a much, much better job at staying in contact with people that I care about, particularly friends and sort of close family. I blew my cousin's mind the other day because I sent him a letter, an actual written letter in the mail. And nobody does that anymore. And to be honest, it's not even that efficient, right? Because by the time, you write it and you proof it and you get it, mailed and find a stamp, because God, who has those anymore either. And you get it mailed off, the initial, I could have just went on, Facebook and send a Facebook message or an Instagram message or something like that. But, or an email even, and stayed in contact that way. But I thought it was nice to actually write a letter. And so I'm going to try to do more of that as I go into this new year with people that should be closer to me and establish that going forward. The other thing I was kind of thinking about is like, how easy is it, for us, at least me, maybe I'm the jerk in the room, and I had to come to some realizations that maybe that one of the things too is that the reason why it's hard for me to maintain friends is because I might be hard to be a friend of, or a hard person for people to be friendly with. And so it's something I was thinking that maybe I need to do some of that work on myself there, and all that. And it's like, well, and then the question becomes well, do I even need friends? I was talking with somebody just the other day, and the general consensus was, I don't even need friends. I like my alone time. And I read a cool quote the other night. I can't remember who it came from, but it said something like this. It says, if you need to be alone a lot, that is because during the course of your day, you're too busy being somebody you're not. And it's in those alone times you can truly be yourself. And I was like, wow, that's amazing, because that's so true. If you have to put on a facade all the time, that is exhausting. And eventually you're going to want to get to a place to where you don't have to put on that facade. And so do we need friends? Well, there seems to be a lot of research that is that's kind of established that no, friendships aren't something that are just a good idea or kind of fun, but rather it's something that we do need. The New York Times had an article, and it was basically saying where they kind of quoted a couple of people that were that have done some research on that, and basically they found that close friendships are necessary for your well-being. And they quoted Serena Chen, and basically it was she said that we are social and communal creatures, and that when we are intimate with another person, we can experience positive mental and physical reactions in our own body, mind, and spirit. And she's a psychologist and professor at the University of Berkeley. And then Dr. Amir Levine, who's also a psychiatrist and a neuroscientist, and he wrote a book called Attached, The New Science of Adult Attachment and How It Can Help You Find and Keep Love. He basically said that social connections are the most powerful way for us to regulate our emotional distress. And if you are in distress, being in proximity to somebody you're securely attached to is the most effective way to calm yourself. And that is so true. I never really thought about that, but I know from a personal experience that if I've been in places like, I don't know, maybe we're at the store or really at a party. Like, I'm so not good at being in a party where I don't know people. Like, it's not like, so I'm going as a guest. So like maybe my wife, who's way more socially active than I am, and we get invited to go to somebody's house or somebody's party. And if I don't know a lot of people there, I'm the wallflower. I will stand in a corner and I'll just kind of be nervous about talking to strangers. And yet, if she comes by, then I'll feel like this sort of, whew. Or if I'm at a party like that, I'm going to immediately search out somebody that I know, and I'm going to latch onto them with both hands and not let them go the whole time I'm there, because it gives me that sort of feeling of being rooted and calm. And so this idea then becomes then what kind of closeness do we need? Because you think, okay, well, if you're married, well, you have that sort of intimacy and friendship going on with your spouse. And then and then of course you have your children, and so you have that sort of intimacy with them. But what does it really mean? What is it that a friendship provides that the relationship with your spouse doesn't? And well, one is it gives you a place to talk about things you couldn't necessarily talk about with your spouse, which would be like the problems you might have with your spouse, right? Like, there's sometimes where being a guy is just I want another dude that kind of relates to the experience that I can kind of like talk to, and and we can kind of share like our struggles and our frustrations, and and this our fears. And that gets it to be really tough to do in general amongst men, but it's really nice when you can find that idea. In that same article from the New York Times, they talked about true close friendship does not need to be quite as extreme. A key to a close friendship is intimacy, and a big part of intimacy is being able to be fully yourself and seen and understood by others. And that's it. Amen, brother. That's it. Done deal right there. The desire to be able to be seen and understood by others, and be our true selves, to where we can just relax. We can be, us in our rawest forms. That's why I think, sometimes these relationships and these friendships are vitally important. We can talk about stuff that wouldn't be normally talked about somewhere else. And we can, be our just dudes, being dudes. And I think women need that with other women too sometimes. And so it becomes a great way for us to just kind of do that. So I think moving forward, that's one of the things I want to do a much better job as I kind of move forward and is be a better friend to people in my life that I know. In fact, it was funny that that thought came to me as I have a really good friend who we've been buddies since, we were 14 years old. And he just turned 50, and so he had his wife had booked him an Airbnb at Myrtle Beach and said, hey, come on down, and we're gonna have a guys' weekend. And so during the course of that guys' weekend, we were at dinner one night, and my buddy, of 36 years, basically said, "You've been better friends to me than I've been to you over the years." Well, I think everybody at the table agreed that was nonsense, but it's an interesting notion that it is easy for us to feel like we're not as good of friends to people as they've been to us. And so it's I think going forward, that's the big takeaway is I just want to do better at that. Like I want to figure out how to be better at being a friend. Like I want to put some effort and some time into doing that and get out of my comfort zone and get out of my little complacency where it's just easy to sit at home and pop on Netflix, or in my case, YouTube, and just be in a rabbit hole of YouTube videos and not actually connected to the real world. And so I think moving forward, that's what I want to do. And that's the way I want to kind of approach this new 2022 year. I'm going to use this year, like this is why I started this podcast, is it's just my way of kind of going through these mental gymnastics, and I'm just going to kind of spew them out there. And I hope that whoever listens to this kind of can relate to that. I'd love to be able to know what people are thinking. And I'm also inviting everybody I know to come talk to me, because while I can sit here and we're 18 minutes into this podcast right now, and I've talked, off the cuff for that long, it gets tough, and it's a much better deal when it's a conversation between a couple of people. So as I'm moving forward, that's what I want to do. I hope you come along on the journey, and we will catch you next week on the Weekly Bark. Take care. Have a great day. Talk to you soon.